What is up, everybody? This is Jeff from Jeff Needs Sports, a proud member of the Off the Ball Network, and you are listening/watching the Buckeye Remix, Week 4, Wisconsin. What's going on, everybody? This is Jeff here. Another great victory remix, if you will. This was a fun week. I was at the game live this week, so that's going to add a little more energy, a little more juice. First and foremost, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, thanks for all the downloads. If you're listening, Jeff Needs Sports anywhere you get your podcast. If you're watching, you can, Off the Ball Network YouTube. Please like, subscribe. You can catch it on my YouTube. If you're a fan of that, Facebook, Twitter at jhunt006, and everything all the comments, likes, interactions, everything you do is awesome for the show. It's been a great time. It's been a good season. Been a good season to be a Buckeye fan so far. So a lot of good emotions, a lot of positive energy, a lot of momentum, going right now. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's get into it. We don't hesitate on the show. We're like the Ryan Day of show. We're like, if Ryan Day was our producer, it's how we'd run the show. We just get into it. Like, there's no reason to mess around at the beginning. Let's put this thing away out of the gates, and have some fun here. So first of all, knee jerks. The overall thing was Ohio State beats Wisconsin 52-21, and it's hard to say that doesn't tell the story of it. This game was 31, it was 21-0, but it was 31-7 at halftime. Absolutely put away, put to bed. No questions asked. Going into halftime, pretty impressive. Actually, I'll say a very, very impressive first half by the Buckeyes in this game. The total score was 52-21, but it was even a better game than that. If as we all probably know. Some things that stood out. That's why we call them knee jerks. I had a few things here. First of all, first and foremost, Wisconsin's not as good as I thought they might be. They're not a really good team. This isn't a show about Wisconsin. It's not the Wisconsin remix. I just want to say that I recognize that they're not quite ready. I don't want to bang on him all day, but Mertz is what Mertz is. This was not a fair fight. So that's all I'll say about Wisconsin. Most important thing, I went to the game. Me and my wife went up early. We tailgated. We went over to the Blackwell. Had a couple drinks. Went into the game. Participated. It was the blackout. I fully admit I'm not a huge fan of it, but it was awesome. If everybody likes it, it's great. I'm not against it, just not a giant fan of it. Whatever. I think it's just because I don't have a lot of black clothing. Not a lot to wear. But it was cool. I tailgate with some friends. Actually, if any of you follow, listen to me for a long time, my old partner Max was with me, so we got to talk about the game before and after and all that. So just a great experience. And I will say this, again, I've been hard on the Buckeye crowd for years, the home crowd, and said that and I consider myself for that. We are not quite what we portray in the national media as far as home field advantage. It was awesome. Everybody was in. I think it was the most packed tailgate I'd ever seen. We park a little over a mile away. The entire walk was packed with fans, packed with tailgates, and packed, with the whole rigs, the campers, the, people playing football, in the parking lots, the whole 9 yards, man. It was awesome all the way to the game. The Blackwell was packed as usual. Had a great time there. Of course, the stands were packed. Really, a lot of energy. Everybody was participating. It got really loud when it needed to get loud. I heard it come off. I rewatched the game on TV, of course, but I watch it, edited, so I don't really experience the whole 4 hour. We talked about it last week. It's out of control how long these games are, but that's beside the point. Anyway, awesome. Shout out to the crowd first and foremost. It feels like there's this great synergy right now. It kind of reminds me a little of the '06 team, to where it really feels like the fans and the team are kind of gelling really well right now. Things are going good. Ohio State fans are, and it's because of the defense. A lot of it's because of the defense. There's a lot of energy built around that. They're playing good. That energizes, fans. So just everything's coming together. But shout out to the fans. Great job. Another knee jerk, a little more depth than I thought. Secondary, two starting, cornerbacks out, two new guys in, did a great job. Mertz had 94 yards passing. That's all I really need to say about it. An interception that was telegraphed, for decades. People 2 years from now could see or 2 years, in the past could see that he was going to throw that interception. It is what it is. But I was impressed with the depth. I was, in the second half when we really started getting down the roster because of the blowout. The players were doing some really nice jobs, some stepping up. That was really cool. But that's a good thing to see because you're going to need that. Football's a tough game. Guys are going to get hurt. Guys are going to get dinged up. Guys are going to get thrown out for no reason. Sometimes it's nice to have some depth. So I was impressed with with that. I was impressed with. We'll talk about this later. I was impressed with they were ready to play, and that's going to be my kind of closing arguments this evening. And overall the season, things are going as planned so far. Defense looks better. Defense looks how we want it to. Not quite as confused. They're not perfect. They got away with a few the other day. I think a better quarterback could have put some points up on this Buckeye secondary, and we'll see going forward. We're going to play some better quarterbacks. Didn't happen the other night. I think they got away with a couple. Shout out to McAllister, which we'll talk about when we get the defensive segment. But overall, the season's going as planned. Offense looks really good. Of course, we miss JSN. I hope he comes back. I'm not going to express my thoughts yet on how his season's going to go. I hope everything's going as planned. I hope he comes back. I hope he's healthy. That's giant to get one of the best players in the country back on an offense that already looks this good. So far so good. That's what I would say about through 4 weeks. Oh yeah. A couple things that stood out on the stat sheet. Finally, time of possession. We won time of possession, which we don't normally do. Buckeyes don't normally do that because they just always score. So they just don't have the ball long enough. They time of possession by 6 minutes. 43 rushes, which is awesome. So they ground the game out. As far as they had 539 total yards, 281 passing, 258 rushing. Just a balanced attack. Honestly, they just murdered Wisconsin that night. It was a no brainer. Defense played good too. Wisconsin had 296 total yards, but they kept getting the ball back because Ohio State kept scoring. So overall, great performance. It was 31-7 at the half. Everything after that was a scrimmage. So that was cool. So we'll get on to the grades here. I don't, you guys watch the game. You know how awesome it was. We don't want to drag this out. I will recognize it always feels good to beat Wisconsin because when they've got wins over the years, like, boy, you really know that they beat you. So I just want to say that, I recognize how good it feels to beat what I'll call rivals. And I consider Wisconsin a rival after everything that's happened over the last couple decades, almost damn near 30 years now since Alvarez got there and really turned that program around. So we'll get on team grades. The offense, I gave an A. We just said it. They were awesome again. I love some of the play action stuff they did. A touchdown to Stover in the end zone was great. I was lucky enough that it was in my end zone that I was sitting in. That was cool. But I do love some of the, I know we talked about they're not going to run Stroud a lot. That's a question. That's their choice, and I'm sure they're right. But the other side of that is if you're not going to run Stroud, you have to have some play action out of it that at least keeps if nothing else, the linebackers uneasy on the other team. And they did a couple good jobs of that the other night and froze some linebackers. I know Stroud can do it with his eyes and everything, but there's going to be times where there's going to be better linebackers. You're going to need to do it with your actions. They showed some of those, so that was cool. Stover, another great game by him. Can't say enough about what he's done this year, but I will again later in the show. Love the play action stuff. Here's my concern. So let's do some negatives. I know this is what I'm famous for, is the negatives. And it's not about this game. The only question I have going forward is this team, is the weather, how are they going to perform in the weather? Like, we've seen games to where we go to Happy Valley, it's pouring down rain, it's 50 degrees, it's miserable. Does this offense come to a halt, or do they have Do they have a plan? I've asked people, I've asked, a lot of my Buckeye friends, guys that I trust their opinion. They say we can grind it out. We can just shift. We can switch to the run game and grind it out. It's hard to argue with that. The way they're running the ball right now. I mean, they ran it for 6 yards a carry the other night. That's cool. So, I don't know the answer. And I keep saying I'm going to hesitate. I'm going to hesitate to judge how if this offense is great after they play in a really crappy weather game. That's just the truth because one of your equalizers in that is a running quarterback. Stroud's just not. Like I think we're just at the. I don't really. There's no really reason to talk about it anymore. He's a very very extremely good quarterback, and I believe he's put himself as the, if not the top pick, the top quarterback in the NFL draft right now. No questions asked. But he's just not going to be a running quarterback, and he's just not going to be that dude. Whether it's his choice or whether that's the play call. I also don't want him beat up. I get it. There's two sides to this sword. I'm just saying he's not going to be a running quarterback. So when we get in those games, like we saw him last year, we saw like the Nebraska game, we saw the Michigan game, and when things got crappy, and 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 the weather's kind of working against you, the offense did take a step back. So that's I'm just saying I have the question. It may not happen. They may get lucky. They may have another 8 weekends of really good weather. If you told me right now they played every team in a dome the rest of the year, I don't think there's a question about the Buckeyes going undefeated, but they don't. This is the Big Ten. I live here in the area. It's going to be crappy. That's it's just a question mark right now. It's not. I'm not telling you what's going to happen. It's a question mark of what's going to happen when things get cold and windy and rainy again. There's a couple teams, the next two teams behind, the next three teams behind them are built a little more for crappy weather. The downside to that, if I'm their team, if I'm doing the Penn State remix, I'm telling you that like I want it to be crappy. So if it's not, then I may not have the team to keep up with, a turf team. So I'm just the question marks there. I don't know what's going to happen when stuff gets nasty. But I do it is going to happen. I'm just curious. That's all. So that's my biggest negative out of it is like they look like they can take a step back when it goes against them. Again, as far as offense goes, Stover and Williams, again, Mayan Williams is just a guy on a mission right now. Henderson's putting up tons of a quiet 120 yards the other night, 10 yards a carry. Mayan Williams I think he's kind of getting a pub just because of the way it looks when he runs, and people just gravitate to that. So they're both doing a great job, though. I'm not taking anything away from Henderson, which I do a lot. It sounds like I do a lot. I told somebody he wasn't a first round pick the other day, and it didn't go so well. I didn't say he couldn't play in the NFL. I just said as of right now, I don't think he's a first round pick. I don't think a lot of running backs are, if you know me very well. But what Mayan's doing is really nice. Doing a great job running the ball and getting in the end zone. It's awesome to have those two. We're basically right now, like again, we have depth at running back, which is ginormous. Having depth at running back is ginormous as the season goes on, because that's probably the last physical position on offense left that these guys get to really get beat up. So really loving the running back room so far. Really cool stuff. So, all right, we'll move on to the defense. Offense is easy. Offense is easy to grade so far every week. Defense actually gave them a B plus. They absolutely shut Wisconsin down when it mattered. They put the clamps on for the first. Really, it only took the first 20 minutes of the game. Then the game was over. They got the big interception, which was all from scheme and technique. Like it was the way they lined up. It wasn't an accident. I mean, they baited Mertz into that interception, which was really cool to see out of our defense. It's so I thought overall they did a really good job. They tackled well again. Eichenberg played another great game, took another step forward. It was great to see McAllister play really good. You're like, okay, it's awesome for him to transfer here and make the difference he is already. It's good to see Proctor out there playing again. Actually, I think he was second in tackles that night. So real happy for him. It's a guy that we all know he has a spot, and it's either because of injury or coaching or whatever. It just feels like it just keeps slipping out of his hand. Proctor played pretty good. If we can get, if that's another layer that Proctor's going to play good, then you got McAllister, and then we get everybody back. Like Now you got some depth in the secondary, which is another. It's huge, going down the stretch. So really happy for that. Yeah, it's cool. The outside edge, is getting a little better. We're still, and I don't know enough about this scheme to know like if we don't get a ton of those outside edge sacks, a lot of that's on purpose because that's just not the type of defense we run, and we're just so that's just what you're accustomed to in football. You want that guy to come off, you know, that outside technique, the 5-7, 9 hole, whatever you're going to call it, and blasting the guy from behind or whatever. That's not, that's not the type of defense they play. But I love the pressure up the middle. The tackling seems better. The aggressiveness seems, the energy seems, everything seems up. So overall, defense got a B plus. Coaching this week, I mean, it's hard not to give him. I'm going to give him a B plus, and I'll tell you why. I just can't stand these early timeouts. It's driving me nuts to call any coach I don't care if it's NFL, whatever. If you call a timeout in the first quarter, I'm angry because I think taking a 5-yard penalty is a way better option than not having that timeout later in the game when you really need it. High State didn't need it, but that's not the point. They still called it. So it's frustrating to me. So that's it. Everything else looked good. The game plan looked good. Balanced offensive attack. Defense looked a little better, which they've got better every week. It's just those early timeouts frustrate me, and I have to nitpick, and so I did. So I gave coaching a B plus this week. Got to work on this game management. I think Day's getting there, and I think having Knowles helps him get there. But I still think that I still think that there's a little work to do and experience and wise and managing the game. But we're again nitpick. It's a B plus. We're not killing anybody for that. So my final thoughts on this are, we've talked. The story of the year has been like defense looks better, Stroud looks great, and all this. So we always say coaching, coaching, coaching. Like, it's just great coaching, great coaching, great coaching. But I know that I know it's not intentional, but we don't say is what I consider it's great learning. A new coach, and we'll talk about the defensive. A new coach comes in. All these defensive guys have a ton of new stuff to learn, complicated defense, and they're playing good. So I just want to point out how good these players do at learning stuff and how they're absorbing it, how they want to be coached, and how their technique, their individual techniques are really standing out as far as like the way they defend passes, the technique, whether it's the lineman, at the snap of the ball, whether it's Eichenberg and, how he goes through his reads and then releases into the backfield, things like that. These are all things that each individual player has to learn and get better at. So I just want to talk about how great the learning has been for High State this year. You got high level players, you got highly intelligent players. They absorb the system. They want to get better. And that's been the biggest thing across the board. Offensive line, got better. Each individual position, they all seem like they're playing a little better, including CJ, including the running backs, including the wide receivers. So I think sometimes we get so caught up in like, it's coaching. Well, that's there's no magic wand. Like a coach can come in and say whatever he wants, but if the players are basically just they're letting it bounce off of them like a whiteboard, it's not doing any good. The players have to absorb it. They have to understand it. They have to communicate. They have to do so many things to get better from what a coach can only have philosophies and theories and help put people in the right spots. The players have to execute, and they are very well. So, all the praise we're giving the coaches this year is I want to talk about, they're the vehicle for what the coaches say, but they're the ones that have to go out and execute, and they're the ones that have to adjust. And they're the ones that have to think while they're getting, hit by, other athletes running 20 mile an hour and all these. So, a ton of credit to these players and the technique and how much better they've got. Like, guys like Stover's a great example of just, he went from linebacker to he's a very good tight end, not just serviceable. He's doing a great job out there. Proctor, has changed the way he plays the position, and stuff like that. So just a shout out to the players themselves for how the work they put in, obviously, and everything that they've done to make the coaches. I think I'll put it to, as of right now, the players are making the coaches look very smart and look like they've earned their money. So shout out to the players for once in a while. Now, I know nobody does it intentionally, but we talk so much about coaching. I want to talk about the players have done have really done a great job this year. And if anybody knows me on the show, I don't always do that. So it may not last, but it is what it is. So so that's it. Got Rutgers coming up this week. Not a lot to say about it. I don't do a ton of preview. We all expect another blowout. Um, it's I don't know what's going to happen. I don't think the hurricane's going to affect it. It could be wet, so we may get to see some nasty weather. It kind of reminds me of when we early season in Nebraska. I think it was, I don't know if it might have been last year, it might have been a couple years ago where oh yeah, it was last year because is Mr. Stroud playing quarterback kind of fought through that game in some nasty conditions. So maybe this will be one of those a more uncomfortable game. We'll say uncomfortable. You know, we all expect a certain outcome, but you never know, man. That's why they play college football. So that's it for me. This was the Buckeye Remix. You know, keep tuned to the Jeff Needs Sports page. I'll have my college football rankings coming out too, so keep an eye out for them. And you know, so that we got a lot of stuff going on here. So far, so fun this year. It's been a great time. I appreciate all the help, everybody. I'm Jeff for Jeff Needs Sports. That was the Buckeye Remix. Go Bucks, and we are out.